Hi.
Hello.
So, what's your name?
Ryan.
So, you're an alcoholic, are you?
Pretty much.
All right. Uh, so, like I was mentioning earlier, this is the first time that I'm doing this. The name of the channel is Sipping on Freedom. Coincidentally, you're drinking coffee, so you're sipping on it. Um,
Nice.
I'll be asking you several questions about, how you feel, what, how alcohol has affected your life, and how is sobriety affecting your life.
Nice.
All right. So, when were you introduced to alcohol?
I think I'm trying to remember if it was at my buddy's house or at my own house, stealing a beer out of the fridge. I know it was either way, basically stealing a beer out of either my buddy's fridge or my, one at home. And I remember both of those instances. Either way, it was probably around the same year. Probably around like 13, 14 at the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was your family big on drinking when you were?
No, actually not at all. My parents are very religious and still are. And I think that time I had a beer out of the fridge was the only time they ever did have beer in the fridge. My wife, and I was curious, and I wanted to see what it was all about. So yeah, and I remember loving it.
You miss it?
Do I miss it?
Yeah, miss
Now?
drinking.
Yeah, in a way. Sometimes, not all the time, but like Friday night. Usually every Friday after work, I miss it, or after work in general. But like during the day, I don't really think about it at all. But weekends too, of course.
Was there a time when you started drinking that you thought you were going to become an alcoholic, or that you thought that you were going to stop at any moment?
Yeah, I think there's a point where I think I may have a problem that's starting, and it's probably when I was younger, like early 20s, I didn't think that because I thought it's just normal to party. I mean, everybody's doing it, But like, I think when I was in Hawaii in 2006, so I would have been 25. That's when I really started loving just the feeling of it, and the craft beer scene out there. Craft beer was really getting popular, and it was Kona. I'll never forget. It was Kona Brewery, Honolulu. That had a lot of different beers I never had tried. Besides typical Coors Light, Bud Light, so on. So I did start to think I think I like this too much because because I started drinking more and more. And I started realizing it wasn't just like one or two, it was 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. And then I wouldn't remember what had happened at the end of the night. I would wake up and not really remember the whole night, which I think started making me think like maybe this has gone too far.
Okay. Were you alone, or were you often with other people when you were drinking?
A little bit of both, but I think it was both actually. It wasn't like one or the other. I would drink alone. I would play video games sometimes and sit there and constantly refill my glass with another beer. I would play baseball games on Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. And yeah, I wouldn't even count. I would just drink until I was tired.
Oh, wow. So on average, normally how many would you go for? How many drinks would you have?
At that time?
Yeah. Did it increase progressively?
Yeah, probably. Honestly, I think I stopped counting because I was just like, I'm just gonna keep drinking because I love it. So just however many I could until I passed out. Probably 10 or more.
Is there a specific type of beer that you constantly would be like your go-to?
Well, at that point in Hawaii, it was a lot of Kona beers.
Okay.
It was a local brewery. But then I started branching out to other brands too. I mean, back then it wasn't as big. There was only a few craft brews. So Maui had one. I remember, and I liked them too. But yeah.
Okay. If you were to see a specific type of beer or liquor, does that trigger you? Does that do you feel powerless over it?
If I see a specific brand,
or a style of beer that you like that you
oh yeah,
see
like like if I go to a bar and I see the tap handle, I'm like, oh man,
Oh, the tap handle alone. I'm sorry for that interruption. I was saying, so just the tap handle alone would just trigger you.
Yeah. Just makes me want to have another one. For sure.
How has alcohol affected your life, and what you feel comfortable sharing?
I think now that I've been sober 5 months, I see, and and then hanging out with people that are drinking when I am sober, I see the difference that it makes. It basically changes you into another person, a completely different person. Like they say, a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts, but I don't think that's really true. Sometimes it might be true. Like you may have the courage to say what you've always wanted to say to somebody, but it definitely, it basically makes you completely internal, where all you care about is your own pleasures and your own desires. It really makes you just care all about yourself, and whatever you do, whatever it takes to make yourself happy when you're under the influence, I think.
Okay.
As opposed to, and that's for me, I'm speaking for myself, as opposed to when I'm sober, I care more about helping other people and making sure everybody else is happy, not just me. I still care about myself somewhat, but not nearly like that when I'm under the influence.
Would your family or your friends say that when you're drinking you're a different person? Like, were you violent? Were you more cheerful?
They would say the first couple, 2 or 3, I'd be more cheerful. That euphoria kicks in, and then after that, it's basically either reckless type behavior, like gambling. For example, I would go typical night after work. I would go to B-Dub, Buffalo Wild Wings or Texas Roadhouse or Green Turtle, and have 2, 3, 4, 5 beers there with friends or whatever, and then I would feel happy there, feel good, but then that wouldn't be enough for me. Like they'd be ready to go, and I'd be like, I want more. So I would go to Dover Downs and keep drinking there by myself, usually, because people don't typically gamble on a work night, right? That's just not normal, or drink that much on a work night. That's not normal either. But for me, since I loved alcohol and the feeling, I never wanted it to end, so I wanted to keep it going. Unfortunately, that's not how alcohol works, right? It's a depressant. It takes you to that euphoric feeling for the first 2 or 3, and then after that, you spiral down.
Yeah.
You end up, but you try to make up for that by, I think you subconsciously know that's happening, so you try to make up for it by drinking more, thinking the more I drink, then I'll get happy again. But actually, it just doesn't. It just keeps getting worse. So you end up being more reckless to try to get that high. And for me, that would usually go gamble to try to get that high again. Win some money. And sometimes I did win money, and I would get that high. But then, more often, I mean, casinos aren't in business for no reason, right? They're there because they make money. Because they know how people are. nothing's ever enough when you're gambling and drinking. Nothing's ever enough to satisfy, so you just keep gambling until you end up losing, and you're just too tired to keep going. So that's what usually would happen. So yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. In your sobriety, or during the first days of recovery, did you experience a profound moment that made you feel down to earth and realize that you need to save your life, or that just...
Yeah, I realized that I was in denial for the first few days in Texas that I was, actually had a problem at all. I thought I just really like beer and that's all there is to it. Just like some people really like surfing or really like biking. I just really like craft beer. That's all. It's not that I'm an alcoholic. That's what I was always telling myself. It's just, I can quit if I want to. I just don't want to. But eventually I will want to, I guess, and then I'll be fine. But I started to realize that when I couldn't have it, I wanted it, and I missed it so badly that that is a problem. I can't. It's not like you just took cookies away from me and, oh, okay, that sucks. It was something that I didn't know how to live without in my mind. I'm like, how do I function and how do I be happy without it? That's how you know you have a problem. It's important to you. And I started to realize more and more how important it was. In some of our meetings, we had where I was realizing, I was hearing other people's stories, and like, yeah, I've been there, I've felt that way. And one that stood out was, like, one of the girls was saying, like, I wouldn't go to certain parties unless there was alcohol involved. If there wasn't alcohol involved, I wouldn't go, right? And so I would, like, yeah, I've thought that too with certain events. Like if it was some kind of social gathering, but it wasn't at a place that had alcohol available, I typically would not go to it because I felt like it's not going to be any fun, and I need to have alcohol to have fun, so I would not go. And if there was alcohol, I would usually pregame, before the event, just to make sure I'm in the mood, and then go all out at the event, And so, and I started to try to remember good times, so-called good times, where there wasn't any alcohol, and I really couldn't come up with any. Like, I can't remember. Like, I look at all the pictures on my wall of all these fun social times, and there was alcohol and there was almost beer in every single picture. And most of those pictures, people are drunk in the picture, you can tell. So, and I mean, that goes for a lot of people. I think if they look at their Facebook pictures they posted, if they're honest with themselves, they'd probably see the same problem. That, wow, all my like proud moments are all almost drunk moments.
Do you think social media injects more alcohol into the culture, into society?
Oh yeah, because people, the thing about alcohol is it's a social lubricant, right? So people go out, say they go out, meet up at a restaurant, and they get a couple drinks in them, and guess what usually ends up happening, right? Usually the females will want to get a group picture, right? The waiter, hey waiter, come take a picture. And you see in the picture that everybody has a drink in hand, right? And it's like they're proud of their moment they had. They were feeling good at that time. They took a picture to remember it. And what does that promote? Like when you see that come up on your Facebook page, what does that promote? Whether you think about it or not, it promotes, alcohol equals fun, right? And if you see that and you're sober, like, oh man, I wish I was having fun like they are, and it just subconsciously kind of goes in your brain that they go together. It makes you, and even now, I try not to even go on Facebook that much because it makes me miss it too sometimes, seeing it. Like, I'll see my friends, they checked in at so-and-such brewery, having a great time. Like, dang, like, I'm missing out, Really, I'm not, because I start to remember what had really happened at those events, and I would always get blasted, and usually end up arguing with somebody or blowing tons of money on absolutely nothing.
Right. How has this affected your work?
Well, I haven't been able to do my real job now since February, mainly because of it. So it's been almost 6 months where I haven't been able to do what I love to do. And I don't know if I still don't even know if I'll ever be able to do it again. It's still up in the air. But the thing is with my job is it's ingrained in our culture that it goes hand in hand, alcohol, it just does. And that's not to try to blame the culture for my own problems, but it just is what it is. Like, so I don't even know how I'm going to deal with if I do get to do my job again. I don't even know how I'm going to deal with it without alcohol anymore because I'm so used to it. I've been doing it for 19 years. It's going to be a completely different type of atmosphere, without alcohol. So, yeah, it definitely, and I can see the difference now. I wake up in the morning, I feel great. I have energy. I can focus. I can accomplish tasks without feeling just dreadful and just tired from the night before, with a headache and dehydrated. And then on top of that, I don't have to worry about, because usually I would be dehydrated, hungover, tired, but as soon as I would get over that feeling, I would just start thinking about the next drink for that night. It's horrible. It's a never-ending cycle, right?
Cycle of insanity, right?
It is. Like, oh, something's going to be different, even though I'm going to do the same thing I did last night.
Right.
Somehow it's going to be better this time, but it never was. So, yeah.
What would be an advice you would give to a new member of your unit about the culture?
I would tell them, I'm not going to say you're a horrible person if you have a couple of beers, on a night out overseas or something. But I would challenge somebody to try to have fun without it. See if you can do it, right? If you can't, if you feel like you absolutely have to have a drink to have a good time, then you have a problem, honestly. You really do have a problem. You shouldn't need any kind of substance to feel good, right? Because that means you're dependent on that substance if you need it. If you can go without it and still have a good time, then you're not an alcoholic. You're you can handle it. So I would advise to stay away from it because it's a slippery slope. Because it's very addictive. It hooks you. It's just like a cigarette. Some people start out smoking, and they start out by just smoking when they're mad or angry to de-stress. But eventually their body starts to get used to that drug, and it wants it more and more. And before you know it, you're smoking all day long. You didn't even ever mean to. It's the same way with alcohol. People start out innocently. They don't like one day wake up, oh, I want to be an alcoholic now. Nobody ever does that.
Be a career alcoholic.
Yeah. It starts out slowly. You have a couple of beers with your buddies, and then next thing you know, you're drinking by yourself in your basement, and because you start thinking that you need it. And your body actually does start to need it to stay stable, because your body starts getting used to it, And a lot of times I notice that too, is that I was starting to realize that I didn't even know how buzzed I even was anymore, because I was just so used to it. I would have 3 or 4 or 5 beers and not even think I'm buzzed, but I actually am, but I'm just thinking I'm normal now.
Did you ever experience any forms of withdrawal or shakes?
I did not when I met you, but I have had that before, where the hangover was so bad, that my skin would be really dried and my hands would shake a little bit. So I haven't had it to the point where I needed medication, but Yeah.
Okay. Do you practice any form of spirituality to help you stay sober?
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing I think you realize when you get sober is that you can't stay sober without God's help, basically. Because our flesh wants what it wants, right? It's just like wanting to have dinner every night. You want what you want. You think you need what you need. And like I said before, it goes back to your body gets used to it. And it thinks it's a necessity, to function.
Right.
And so to get over that craving, I would pray all the time, like, God, get me strength to not give in to it, And usually when I do that, it instantly goes away. It's amazing. But not only just praying, but going to meetings, talking to other people that have the same problems. Usually after a meeting, I don't have any kind of desire at all, for a while, for like a few hours at least. I have like no desire, and I don't even really think about it,
What other activities or hobbies have you tried to develop to keep your mind busy and healthy?
I've been trying to learn instruments like guitar and piano. For now, while it's nice out, I've been swimming almost every day for exercise and stuff like that. Of course, playing with my dogs more. They appreciate me now. 'Cause I usually walk my dog. I have 4 dogs. I walk them almost every night. And so, that takes up time. It's nice to get out, walk around. And then, of course, going to meetings too. Going to Bible studies and AA meetings. Helping other people, actually, surprisingly, gives you kind of a high, believe it or not.
A healthy high.
Yeah, like it just makes you feel good. Not like a drug high, but yeah.
It makes you more empathetic. Okay. All right. I'm trying to think what else I can ask. How has sobriety overall? How do you feel with your sobriety in comparison to what you were at just before just before your incident, and also before you started drinking? I know it's a weird question to ask because it's interesting when you focus before being an alcoholic. Your childhood was fairly decent, and then you drank, and then now you're recovering. When you look at early teen Ryan, drunk Ryan, and then now sober Ryan, how does that make you feel? Basically, that whole change when you look at that. What's in your mind in that?
The way I can describe it is now I know who I actually am. I felt like I was in the drinking culture almost all the time, and so I almost started to not even know who I was, so I was hardly ever sober for that long of a time. You know what I mean? So now I know who I am, and I remember the first week in Texas. I was like, I don't even know who I am, because I started to realize I was a different person soberly, and then I would act under the influence, And I started to like who I actually was sober. I didn't think I would.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people drink to try to change their personality to make it more adaptable, to social situations or whatever. But I realized that I'm fine. So being sober, I don't need to be buzzed or under the influence. I can be myself and it's fine. If it's not fine with certain people, oh well, so what? Not everybody's gonna like everybody, so it is what it is, But yeah, I feel like I said, when you're under the influence and when you're an alcoholic, you're a different person. under the influence than you really are. You become totally selfish and just chaotic. You make reckless decisions. You make erratic, crazy choices, that you never would have done soberly.
Has your family appreciated the fact that you're sober now?
Oh yeah, totally. And that's what's nice too about this journey is that you see who your real friends are, and the real friends you do have are very supportive. It's nice to get that. And it sucks that there are those people that want you to go back to that. And that's, I think, partly because it's not that they want you to be in a chaotic, life, but they don't want to change, so they want you to be the same way they are. Unfortunately, misery loves company, type of thing. But I mean, it's just true. Like they don't want to stop drinking, so they don't want to hang out with you because you're not drinking at all. I mean, I remember going out when I was really into it. Is I would meet up people, and if they weren't drinking, like if they were barely having a beer, I felt like they were like out of place. I'm like, you need to drink more, to get into the mood. Like I always felt like that if they weren't in the same level as I was. I can understand how that is. So yeah, it's nice to have family and real friends support. It definitely helps.
Right. Have you shared this to your son? And do you think he might go into that path one day or experiment with it?
Yeah, I've told him that I don't drink at all anymore, and I told him he should never either. So he knows. I mean, I told him it's going to be tempting, especially when you get a little bit older, because most people do drink in this country. They just do. Especially in the young, late teens, young 20s, they almost all do. But you don't have to. My message is you don't have to. I feel like that's the myth in this culture, is that you have to. If you don't drink on the weekend or drink at a party, something's wrong with you. Like, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with it. It's actually something wrong with getting drunk and try to have a good time. There's something wrong with that. Really, there is something wrong with that. You shouldn't need a substance to have a good time. So you have to look at inside yourself, like. And I had to look inside myself, like, why do I feel like I need to drink to have a good time? And I think it comes down to self-esteem, and it comes down to anxieties and stuff like that. But I think it's a lie. I realize that it is a lie. I've had plenty of good times since I've been sober. Plenty of good times. And it's nice that I can actually remember them. Because most of the drunk times I don't remember, hardly. I remember the beginning of the night. And then that's about it. And the only thing I can really remember is just because there's a picture taken. Like, oh, yeah. But like, other than that, I don't. Most people would say the same thing too. They don't really remember most of those times. And that's what sucks. Is, it kills your brain cells, so you don't remember it. But I remember everything clear as day since I was sober, which is nice.
And we appreciate that.
So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate your help and you sharing here on this channel. Thank you for everything, and that concludes all my questioning. Is there a last message or a last motivational thing you will want to say to the sick and suffering?
I would say, yes. I would say, if you don't know if you have a problem, if you're thinking, I'm not an alcoholic, I don't sleep under a bridge, I have a good job, I haven't gotten a DUI, I haven't got arrested, I would challenge you to, next time you're invited out to something that's fun on a weekend or even a weeknight, go through that whole day or that event without any alcohol at all and see how you are. See if it bothers you that you're not drinking. See if it comes to mind, man, I wish I had a drink. Be honest with yourself. If you go that whole event and that thought never comes to mind, like you don't care whatsoever about it either way, then you don't have a problem, in my opinion. But if you are thinking throughout that event, like, man, it would be so much better without alcohol, I would challenge you that you probably have a problem, and that you need to ask God for help to basically be healed, because I think it's a horrible obsession that that starts in your brain, I think, and then goes to your body, that your body starts to need it. It really demands it. It starts to really make you need alcohol to function. And if you realize that that's happening, and that's what you're going through, then the only way I figured out a way out of it, to come out of insanity, is ask God for that help. And then also, on top of asking God, is getting friends that will support you, that are with you and that won't tempt you to drink and tell you that you really don't have a problem when you know you do have a problem. Because only you can really come to that understanding that you have a problem. Nobody can tell you you have a problem. And they can tell you, but you don't have to believe it, right? So be honest with yourself. Try to go one event without alcohol and see if it affects you at all. If you care about it. If you know in your heart that you do care about it and you do really, really want to have alcohol involved with that event, stop the insanity as early as possible, because the more and more you let it go on, the harder it is to stop. It really is.
All right.
That's probably all I would say about it.
Well, again, I appreciate everything. That was my last question. Thank you.